Hi, Hyra family. I haven't said that in a while or ever. What's up, Hyra family? It's the Hyra Fish for all of my Hyra Rams and Hyro Bulls and Hyro Twins and Hyro Crabs and Hyro everything else. I just call y'all the collective Hyra family. And y'all ain't gotta be Hyros nothing. Y'all can be whatever y'all wanna be. Whatever you wanna be, you can be. Okay, so let's get into this. I had a dream last night that I thought I was gonna remember, but so I woke up like 7 something. I was like, I am not getting up right now. And I had just had a dream. And I was like, oh, I could write that dream down, or I could risk it and just see if I remember. And I don't think I remember the original dream that I had. I've been dreaming a lot about dogs, or I've been seeing a lot of dogs in dreams lately. Not extremely frequently, but fairly frequently. Um, and so last night, from one of the dreams that I remember, um, what's this? Oh, snap! I've never noticed this before. Oh wait, what does it say? Called or not called, God will be there. Oh wow. Vocatus atque non vocatus Deus aderit. Deus ad erit. I never noticed that on the box. There's words. Called or not called, God will be there. Oof. That sound real ominous. That sound ominous. That sound like somebody thought they was getting away with something, but they was being watched. You ain't getting away. You maybe thought you were getting away, but you're not. It's all been observed and duly noted. You don't have to. So in this dream, anyway, there was like this tiny dog, like the tiniest dog I found. The tiniest dog I've ever seen, like almost newborn puppy tiny, but its eyes were open and it had some fur. I think puppies are born with fur, right? I've never seen a newborn puppy in real life, but it was that small, and it was like my little travel companion, and that thing was feisty AF. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we went on a little adventure. We were going to talk to somebody, and I wasn't really paying attention. And he was just there's like this little field that we used to endearingly call the field growing up, where we'd go play, and it's right across the street, just a bunch of open land. Um, and it's a field in the front and the field in the back, and there's this huge white building that honestly I don't know what it's for, and also honestly I don't necessarily know why it would be there. Huh, interesting. That's extremely interesting. I did meet the man who owns it, and his name is AB, through a mutual friend at that time, and he had like 3 little dachshunds or dachshunds or whatever, dachshunds, wiener dogs. He had little wiener dogs. And then there was another house a few doors down that had chihuahuas. Um, oh, AB did have wiener dogs, and there were chihuahuas there. There was this one chihuahua named Bonchico. And Bonchico would like just bark and bark and bark. And sometimes he would get loose and we would like run, even though he's a little chihuahua. You know, we like run from Bonchico. Ow. Alright, calm down, calm down. We would run from Bonchico. And so there was this tiny dog, and I started at the corner and then cut through a backyard. I used to have a friend who lived there. And we ended up behind the large building in the field. Excuse me, and it's more field back there. We didn't really play back there too often. We more played in the front of the field because most of us, excuse me, lived on the front side of the field, and then there were a few of us that lived on the back side of the field. But then the back fielders moved, um, and then the front fielders were still there, and then we just stopped going to the field. Partially because we grew up. Yeah, probably just because we grew up. What is this? Look at how it's balanced on my thigh. We'll take it. If I can get it off. There we go. Um, and so there was a man at the middle of the field, and I was going to approach him. Being between worlds, a vision brought to life, choices that require foresight, communication. Two of hearts, bottom of the deck. What's the bottom of the deck over here? Oh, the healer. Healer and the two of hearts. And I was approaching this dude, he was like, whoa, stop. Like, you don't see that tripwire right there? And I was like, the what? And I looked down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there was a tripwire. There were a whole bunch of tripwires. I'm like, what the freak is this about? Like, my eyes or whatever. I was like, I ain't gonna be able to see these. Fortunately, little doggy was there. But after I was made aware of the tripwires, I could actually see him a lot better. And he said something about amethysts, but he said like he was like, follow the smell of amethyst. I'm like, amethyst ain't got no smell. And so in my waking mind, I'm like, oh, like lavender? But some of it was smell. So it was the smell of amethyst. But I guess some of the tripwires were also electrified, but at different frequencies. And I could hear the frequency, but I didn't end up following either, really. And then there was this other girl. Like, I'm trying to navigate through like smells and sound and the little bit of sight I got. And then this girl started like chucking like water balloons or paint balloons or rocks or something at me. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you making this more difficult than it needs to be? I'm just trying to talk to this man. And so I ended up like jump lunging at her, but when I was like that high above the ground, I'm like, wait, instead of going after her, I can just go to the dude and not have to worry about any of these tripwires. And he was like, what are you doing? Like, you're not supposed to be here yet. I was like, well, I mean, I was gonna go after her, but then like I was already above the ground, so I figured I'd just like, you know, come to you instead of navigating all these wires and stuff, since like I'm able to. But there was something that I still had to do before I could talk to him. So he told me I still had to do that first. And I don't remember the rest of the dream. I do remember, I think, getting on a bus and going somewhere. And then at the end of the dream, I came back, and the dog was there again, and we went back to talk to the man. Or we were headed back in that direction, but I woke up. I don't remember. It was just weird. I don't know why I talk about my dreams sometimes, but... Oh, the Nine of Hearts, and we saw the Nine... No, we didn't see the Nine of Cups. A blip of light at the heart of a black hole. Progenitors in the primordial pool. Interesting. Nine of Hearts, Two of Hearts with the star. Oh, yeah, I did just see the Nine of Cups. The Two of Cups and the Nine of Cups came out in the Legacy channel reading today. The Nine of Cups and the Two of Cups came out with the Devil card. But we have the Healer here instead of the Devil, which is why I like doing this over here sometimes. Because I don't know, it feels like I'm a little bit, or I speak to things that are a little bit further sometimes than what they are over there. Because instead of the Devil, the Two of Cups and the Nine of Cups, there's the Star, which is the Healer, at the bottom of the deck, with the Two of Cups and the Nine of Cups. Two of Hearts, Nine of Hearts. So let's do this real quick. Also, in my own personal life, I was supposed to be doing some stuff, and it hasn't been sitting right with me. I don't know why, but I'm just going to trust it. And I've been getting a lot of feelings lately about like when things are up or when something is a little bit off or when something is about to happen. And I think it's best to just trust it right now. And I was really looking forward to it, but the timing isn't right. Something about it doesn't feel right. Also, I don't know what's going to be happening in the world, so I might not want to get, I don't know. But I'm going to listen to it. Even though, yeah, I'm just going to listen to it. Okay. So let's see what's coming out today. What's coming out today? That was just a little preview of, or a post view of what was over there. And it was all about finding things that resonate in the here and now. And it's not that, I don't know, it's just like it's with the energy of justice, it's about balanced scales. And the scales have been rebalancing, and they can still rebalance. And it's not for necessarily, it's a willingness. Something needs to be matched. Things that need to be matched. Be that a willingness to continue evolving and changing, a willingness to work through things, a willingness to expand beyond one's comfort zone. Like, let's say that you're going for a job that's going to expand you, and whatever you're bringing to the table is also going to expand the job. Going back to the 26th to 27th degree of the mutable signs that I touched on at the beginning of the video 2 days ago on the Legacy channel, it was like a moon of harvest, bushels or bust. Because it was talking about the sculptor, the grand dames at tea, the harvest moon, and the nomad. And it was like there's a nomadic person traveling to meet the grand dames at tea, and they, through the space of mutual beneficiality, something there is molded with the sculptor energy, and we can harvest later into the night because the moon is that big and bright. And so with the harvest moon, it is, when you're harvesting at night, it's like that's almost like dreams coming true. And it didn't even hit me then, but it is like dreams coming true. It's these things that we didn't necessarily think were possible in this space or at this time, but here's the harvest moon to make it all possible. Harvest moon was the full moon in Pisces that we had a minute ago. And we're about to come into this Aries full moon. So we're still, I guess, in the full cycle of the harvest moon before we come into the Aries moon. You know. And it's funny how we get accustomed to things sometimes, and then it's like we get so accustomed to things that part of us forgets that things were ever anything other than what they were. And it's like, oh wait, things aren't like this. And it's like, well, this is how things were before that little period. I do know, but I don't need to get all the way. That's way too much. That's way. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this is how I'm gonna do it. So the top card will be the symbol for the dice. Like the top card, I'll read the card. The bottom card, I'll read the message, and then I want one card to stand with this one as what lies at the heart of all of this, or the overall, or whatever. Right? I can be flexible. I can be flexiblish. But yeah, it is a little disheartening, but honestly, I'm gonna respect this intuition because I don't know. So I'm gonna pass. The time ain't it right now to do that, I guess. Oh, thank you. Oh, the journey. Oh, goodness. So bottom of the deck is the Wheel of Fortune. This card came out. Don't know where I'm gonna put that. I got the one card and I was like, oh, the one card is actually two cards. Well, let's see. Because if I have enough cards, then I can also pair it with everything else. And then one more card fell on the floor, and it's the Dark Horse in reverse. Seven of Wands in reverse. Now, the Seven of Wands came out earlier today, attached to the Nine of Wands, and the Seven of Wands attached to the Nine of Wands being a limitation is us in a perceived space of advantage, but we're not actually. We're actually working against furthering ourselves rather than furthering ourselves. And it's like, with it coming out with the Nine of Wands, it's like it keeps you fighting battles that you don't even need to fight, honestly. But if you are a little bit vulnerable, if you drop your guard a little bit, it's almost like if you come out of the ego, then you wouldn't, or we wouldn't be so easily manipulated, right? It's like when someone dares you to do something and then you say no, and then they're like, "What? Are you chicken? Are you afraid?" And then you do it anyway, even though you don't want to do it. It's the energy of always having something to prove. And when you always have something to prove, it keeps you fighting fights that you don't even need to fight. And it makes you the butt of a lot of jokes, right? You become that person that does whatever anybody says, and then people laugh at you, and not necessarily with you. I knew a guy like that growing up, and it was kind of sad, but I mean, those are the people that he surrounded himself with. And they would be like, "Hey, did you take your medication today?" And he'd be like, "Nope." And then they would get extra mean. And it's like, they would laugh and he would laugh. From the outside, it looked like they were laughing at him, and he thought that he was laughing with them. I don't know. But that was a dynamic that was already established before I even made it into those classes. Bottom of the deck over here is the Two of Spades, a displacement replaced, an unintended and unforeseen consequence, a need for wisdom. And we've seen that before. A need for wisdom, a displacement replaced, Wheel of Fortune. You thought you lost it, but it's coming back, bigger, better, brighter than ever, more ready to cooperate and healed and everything else, right? It just needed to cook a little bit longer. Sometimes you pull the brownies out of the oven, you stick the toothpick in. If it comes out clean, it's done. If it comes out not clean, it still need to cook a little bit. Now, what are we going to do with all this? Since this is face down, I'll put this one with this. And so, goodness. So we got the Eight of Orbs, the Journeyman, and the Ten of Swords, the Destroyer. It feels like the space of something that we've been contemplating ending for a long time, and it's time to just do it. With the Seven of Wands in reverse, it's like it's time to just finish the battle. 7, 8, 10. There's no 9 here, but we did see the 9 of Hearts. I'm actually going to I Ching the 8 of Pentacles and the 10 of Swords. I'm also going to take a picture of this really quick so I can just change the thumbnail without waiting. And I've been a little rough-ish on myself lately because there's more that I could be doing. But I've also been showing up in the moment and doing what I need to do instead of procrastinating like I usually do, right? Like I'll wake up to an email mid-nap or whatever, and I'll reply to it instead of saving it for like 3 days later. And I've been more proactive at the same time about some other stuff too. So, you know, it's not that I'm not doing anything, and I could always be doing more, but I'm doing enough. I'm still moving forward, you know. So, but it is time for me to get cracking on that other stuff too. Now, October sometimes is like my, all right, it's time to kick it into high gear phase because it's roughly mid-semester. It's like, okay, I've slacked off enough. Now I got to get serious if I don't want to fail. I'm kind of feeling that, but there's been a lot of other things that I've been putting into motion as well. And yeah, And it's like I've been setting it all into motion, but it isn't necessarily all happening at once. So it makes it a lot more manageable in the moment as well. So I'll take it. Ow. Hey. Okay, so we got the, what was it? The Ten of Swords and the Eight of Pentacles. This is Lake Over the Mountain. We've been seeing water over the mountain, but now there's a whole lake on top of the mountain. Lake, oh, come on. Lake over mountain is number 31. Attraction. I don't think I've seen this one. Number 30 is attachment. Number 30 is clinging, and we've seen that a few times. I think attraction is brand new for me. I don't think I've read attraction yet. I'm excited. This is really exciting, guys. Let's see what this is about. Attraction, influence, and chemistry. Okay, all right. I'm interested. Color me interested. Let's see. Receive others with humility and non-judgment. Oof. Oh man. Give me a second to drink some water on that one, please. Because I did just end the legacy reading by Ben. It's I don't know. Because it's like in my mind, it's not judgmental if I want to be surrounded by decent people. I feel like if I didn't take into consideration some of the reasons why they could be led to believe the things that they believe and other things that would influence their perspective, then that would be a little bit more judgmental. It's a space of me like understanding, but I don't like it's just something that doesn't align with me. And I don't have to be critical or judgmental to be like, hey, like that's not on my frequency, that ain't on my vibe. And it reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend actually a few years ago, drinking some bubble tea in the basement at the Memorial Union over the summer when I was starting to get better myself. So that had to be, oh, 2019? No, because she was already gone. So I guess summer of 2018. A few months before I had my darkest night. Yeah, it was a few months before I had my darkest night. Because before my darkest night, I thought I was handling some things. I caught myself doing some things in preparation before that semester began. But I guess I didn't complete it because things fell apart, and I thought that they were coming together. But because I did do a little bit of that coming together after the darkest night, it's like I had somewhere to start a little bit. So I remember talking to her about feeling judgmental sometimes because there are certain people that I don't want in my life. Like I don't want people who don't care about other people or people who can't be considerate in my life. I don't want people who only use me. I don't want people who like I just want like compassionate people. And no one is perfect, but people who are at least open to listening in my life. And I was like, I feel judgmental sometimes if I feel like I don't want somebody in my life because compassionate and open-minded and open-hearted is something when I was a child, when I was a lot younger, that's what I prided myself on. So it wasn't about, how I looked or the clothes that I wore, or it wasn't about me having this or having that. It wasn't anything external. It was how I viewed me as someone open-minded, open-hearted, compassionate, and at least open to listening. And I felt like deciding who and what I want in my life made me judgmental. And she was like, I don't think that makes you judgmental. It just like, it's like you basically getting clear on, what is acceptable for you. And you can find something unacceptable without being judgmental. And I thought I had worked through it, and now it's something that I guess I still find myself struggling with sometimes. And I guess it's not bad to struggle with it because it keeps me, or it puts me in a space to constantly evaluate my boundaries. And okay, like, is this something that crosses a boundary, or is this me being like overly critical? And then it gives me an opportunity to go into that understanding where I can make a more valid assessment for myself on whether I want something or someone in my life without just jumping to the extreme of judgment. It might not always sound like that, but at least that's how I view it in my mind. I don't know. Receive others with humility and non judgment. Let the people move you, and you will move the people. Reciprocal attraction, mutual influence. That came out today. That was at 2 Eclipse. Young lovers are joyous and prosperous. It is auspicious for you to proceed with your endeavor. Change is coming, though no one seems to sense it. Ooh, I like this. I like this. The beginnings of movement, an idea begins to surface. However, whether the influence will have an impact remains to be seen. It is still too early to tell. Oh, goodness, just baiting me along with that one. I really like this. I really, really, really like this. Wow. I feel like I love that this is coming up at the tail end of Virgo season because I feel like it speaks on, or it's wrapping up nicely, kind of sort of the little bit of a progression that we've had over the few days, even though it initially seemed a little disjointed, maybe, or at least to me. Excuse me. I want to read this one more time. Receive others with humility and non judgment. Let the people move you, and you will move the people. Reciprocal attraction, mutual influence. Young lovers are joyous and prosperous. It is auspicious for you to proceed with your endeavor. Change is coming, though no one seems to sense it. The beginnings of movement, an idea begins to surface. However, whether the influence will have an impact remains to be seen. It is still too early to tell. Oh, I love that. Change is coming. And the two songs that I talked about earlier were Break My Heart by Dua Lipa and Change. Or You Can Make a Change. I think it's just called Change. From the Steven Universe, the movie. And again, her thing was like, I have all of these heavy feelings. I have all of this and I have all of that, and you can't change me. And he said, I know, only you can change you. And it starts with a decision. And it's a decision that we continue to make. And it's a space that we continue to grow in. It's very this Eight of Pentacles energy into this Ten of Swords. Really putting it to bed, it's a dedicated effort. The swords go in one by one. You pull the swords out one by one. You cross the swords one by one. Pinnacle at a pinnacle. Pinnacle by pinnacle, sword by sword. Day by day, moment by moment, sometimes second by second. But we continue. No fancy accolades today, but the attraction. Seven of Wands in reverse. It's almost like by fighting it in the space of this night, you're keeping it away. And it's only when you ease into it and surrender to it that you allow it to come in. I mean, the Wheel of Fortune is at the bottom of the deck. A displacement replaced at the bottom of the deck. Okay, I'm loving this. How do I want to start this, though? How do I draw a star? I do my stars this way. Doop, 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 doop. So that's how we're going to do it. That's how we'll do it. So we have the Eight of Diamonds, that Eight of Pentacles energy coming out first. Love it. Like, what was her name? Was it Liz from Dragon Tales? Zach and Lizzie, the two that were like stuck together. And she'd always be like, love it. So the Eight of Realms. The Eight of Realms is interesting because that's stability on top of stability, right? That's Earth on top of Earth. Stable Earth can be rigid, though. Earth is already naturally stable. So the Eight of Realms could involve a little bit of rigidity. And it's like with the 9, it's completion. With the 10 is a new cycle. But 10 is the actual completion. 9 is. It's like 9 is the completion, but 10 is the finishing touches. So let's back it up. Where 8 is completion, 9 is the editing, 10 is the release. So we're in the space of completion now, which is just like this, right? After we complete what we're working on, the next one is to claim the orb and the staff of mastery. And then after the 9, that's when we edit, or yeah, 9 is editing, so that at the 10 we're ready to release the finished product. So, but the suit of realms is interesting because there's only so much influence that we have. So maybe this is about us doing everything within our power that we can do to continue to grow and be better and evolve and heal and change. And it is change, but it's more maturing and evolving than just like straight up changing, right? Maturation and evolution imply a change for the better. It implies something that makes one more capable in their environment, whereas change could be a big ambiguous. Change could be good or bad, right? There's a certain positive, quote unquote, connotation with maturing and evolving. So let's see what's behind this. The message that we'll read is the King of Hearts. Oh, goodness. Oh, I really wish I didn't write this because this is one of the ones that I don't like. A decision that once made cannot be rescinded. A wise king who settles an impossible dispute, operating in divine order. The one part I don't like is that decision that once made cannot be rescinded. But maybe if we're operating in divine order, it speaks of things that are for us to master in this lifetime. Places that is meant for us to go, lives that were meant to impact and affect for the better, relationships that were meant to form, jobs that were meant to have, organizations and companies, charities that were meant to participate in or raise money for, the legacy that we're meant to have. And the thing about the legacy that we're meant to have is that it is 8 of Pentacles. It doesn't just come to us. It's something that we continuously work towards our whole lives. And it isn't to necessarily have the view of never reaching it or always like never doing enough, never having enough, always focused on the next step. It's more appreciating the moment, being in the moment, reveling in the moment, growing in the moment, evolving in the moment, handling whatever needs to be handled in the moment. And it's this moment by moment by moment evolution. And in these moments, there can be a moment of rest, a moment of peace, a moment of joy, a moment of growth, a moment of challenge, and a moment of triumph. So it is a lot, but it doesn't happen all at once. And sometimes I feel like we can feel like if we make certain decisions that we can't like retake them. It's like things feel a lot more final to us because of this grand vision of where it is that maybe that we want to go or where we're supposed to go. But we also have to keep in mind that we get there day by day, choice by choice, moment by moment. And there are some things that are final, but there are some things that are actually a lot less than we think. And I'll do it this way because this is the message that matters and that's the number. And I can look these up in the Lenormand. I'm not going to I-Ching all of these, but I will see what pops up in the Lenormand. Because this doesn't need to be excessively long, and I'll I-Ching those two for sure. Excuse me. If I remember, sometimes I watch like a bit of some of these back, and I'd be like, "Oh, I said I was gonna I-Ching that," and I never did. I forgot to I-Ching it. But if I don't do it, it ain't meant to happen. So, 8 of Diamonds and the King of Hearts. I should know what the King of Hearts is. Is it the house? I forget. King of Hearts is the house. A. It's home, establishment, safety, tradition, custom, privacy, conservation, positive, and permanent. Well, there's the permanent timing with the decision that once made cannot be rescinded. Maybe if we're talking about the house, let's talk about children. Things that are done to us as a child, things that are done to anybody, cannot be undone. Now, we can change, or not change, we can decide later or in the moment how it affects us, but what was done cannot be undone. The effects of it can be more or less if we decide to make them that way, but it never undoes the situation. And so maybe the wise king who settles an impossible dispute. So the decision happened. Yeah. So the decision happened and the decision can't be undone. But we get to settle that dispute. And we can use wisdom, a need for wisdom. A need for wisdom. Okay. It's coming together. We can use wisdom to decide how we settle it. We can choose to operate in divine order. We can choose to operate in divine order. The 10 of Diamonds is the book. Secrets, knowledge, education, information, research, studies, neutral, and future. I love that. This is us deciding how we want the story to end. Regardless of what we don't have control over. And that's where we're starting. That's where we're starting with this. I love this. I'm loving this. I'm loving this. So next we'll come over here. And it is the Queen of Spades. No, it's the 9 of Spades. Sorry. It's the 9 of Spades, which is that 9 of Swords energy that I do not like because it just feels so deafening. But the 9 of Spades is... Oh, that's interesting because we have the realms over here, the 8 of Realms, but the 9 of Zones. The 9 of Zones is that completion, but we're in the editing phase of the completion. We're tweaking it before it's ready to be presented, right? It's the editing phase of the zone. Zone is tied to the mental realm, and the zones, it's an understanding of the space. And it's almost like the more we do this over here, the more it edits and refines. It's an energy of refinement. The more it refines the space. And as we refine the space, we attract better and better into our reality. And that's the step by step over here because of the refinement over here. And it's like there are certain things that we know to be true. There are certain things that we know to not be true. And at the 9, it's reinforcing both of those. But in the reinforcement of it, there's an opportunity to broaden our understanding of the matter at hand, right? It's like we know this is true. Now we're discovering why it's true. We're discovering how we can observe the truth of it. We're interacting with the truth of it instead of just knowing that it's true. And that's that energy of refinement. It's this fine-tuning. It's this tweaking before the masterpiece. We're cleaning up the lines or whatever, people who draw. But it's happening in the mind. This is our relationship with ourselves in reality and how they both play in that game. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Oh, and look, the King of Spades. Or the King of Clubs, actually. Look. Red King. Black King. Okay, kings. Where feminine and masculine meet. The conception of innocence, nesting and preparation. Nesting and preparation sounds kind of, sort of, to me, kind of, sort of, like that editing, doesn't it? In preparation for the final release for when the baby comes home. And I can also, both of these will also have Lenormand correspondences. And so again, it is this rebalancing. It's where feminine and masculine meet. It's where thought meets desire. It's like it's honestly almost giving me the energy of the blistering heat and freezing cold at the heart of creation, because it's almost like we've deconstructed what these things mean. We've taken off all of the lenses of perception and all of the frames, the narrative frames that we've put on this, elevating it into a space of what it can be more purely, and we're seeing how it interacts on a more organic level outside of everything that's been forced in this space. And I love that for the zones, because that's when we can kind of sort of begin to understand how things actually work together, rather than how we've been trained or taught or educated to believe that they work together. It's like when you constantly force this configuration, you'll always get that configuration. But if you put them into the world naturally, they actually take a different form. And I do also love that for like the humility and the non-judgment. It's like even when we take the lenses and perceptions and filters off of it, how does it present itself? Right? So let's look and see what the Nine of Spades, King of Clubs is. Now the King of Clubs, I feel like I should also know. Is it Fox? I don't know. I don't know. So the Nine of Spades is the Anchor. And we just saw the Anchor. We literally just saw the Anchor today on the Legacy channel. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. The Anchor is stability, restraint, security, resilience, durability, laying foundations, neutral, and a long time. King of Clubs is the Clouds. That's why I should have known the King of Clubs, because I literally just got it like yesterday. The Clouds is confusion, unclarity, misunderstanding, insecurity, doubt, hidden secrets, negative, and fall. And we're coming into the fall tomorrow here in the Northern Hemisphere. So we have the Anchor in Clouds. And again, it's given me that Nine of Wands, Seven of Wands energy, where like we think we're staking our claim. We think that we're doing something that will benefit us. But what we don't know is it actually doesn't. It's like when you rebel against the program, but then you still end up being a part of the program. It's that energy that came out with, I don't remember where it was. It was when I was going through the cards. It was when I was doing the High Priestess and the... No, it wasn't, because I only had one deck, I think. I don't remember what it was I was doing, but I ended up going through the whole deck, basically like 3 cards at a time. And I had the Pride Tarot. It was the Five of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, and then something after that I don't remember. But I was like, either this energy is good or bad, and the shadow side of that energy is when we suffer trauma or abuse. And even when we try not to perpetrate the same thing, we end up doing it anyway. It's like we try to be better than the people who hurt us, but then we end up hurting other people in the exact same ways. And maybe with the Clouds and the Anchor, there's something rooted in us that we're not seeing. It's like kind of like what I was saying earlier. It's like if you've really let go of the past, then like why do you fight so hard? Why are you still running if you've let it go? What are you running from? You got to be running from something. Or you can be running towards something. But it's primarily feels like a running from. So it feels like, I mean, they are on opposite sides. You have this king and then you have that king. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You have a king of water and then a king of fire. So I guess I shouldn't be surprised. But it's a space, because I guess the card didn't show up, where passion meets determination. Here's the determination. Here's the passion. A decision that once made cannot be rescinded. A wise king who settles an impossible dispute, operating a divine order, as opposed to where feminine and masculine perception of innocence and nesting in preparation. Nesting in preparation. Five of Pentacles, King of Pentacles. Look to the root. Look at what is still unhealed. Look at what is still unresolved. And you can see it when you observe the self outside of everyone else. And if you take a really honest look at yourself and you're like, am I doing to other people what was done to me? Am I actually perpetrating cycles that I don't want to keep perpetrating? Has the programming found its way to embed itself in me so deeply that I don't even see that I'm an active player when I'm literally doing all of the same things? The anchor in the clouds. It's like we can't even see the heaviness within us because our desire is so great to not be that. Wow, this is getting a lot heavier and or deeper than I thought. What the freak is this? I don't even know if I'm still recording. When did this pop up? What this mean? Error. YouTube is not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Oh, no, it went away. Excellent connection. Okay. Well, I don't know how much. I'm just going to keep talking. Whatever doesn't appear is not meant to appear because a lot of this is deep internal work that we have to do in ourselves. So, the clouds and the anchor, it's that Seven of Wands, Nine of Wands energy of like not being able to see how heavy things actually are and needing to take an honest look at the self. Because if we don't take an honest look at ourselves and our actions and our patterns of thought and behaviors, it leaves us wide open to being the villain, even though we think we're the hero. Right? And there's nothing inherently wrong with being the villain in someone else's story, because there are some people who would title you the villain because they can't use you, manipulate you, or get whatever they want out of you. People will title you the villain because you have standards and boundaries and stuff like that. And there's a difference between being an actual villain and being the, not anti-hero, but maybe, I don't know. It's about taking an honest look at the self, first and foremost. Man, that just got so heavy, and we were so light, but that's fine, it's life. This is the Libra, this is the balance, this is the justice, I guess. Next, we're going to come down here to the Six of Spades. The Six of Spades is the Six of Zones. So we have the Nine of Zones up here, the Six of Zones. If we see the Three of Zones, that's a whole 3, 6, 9. The Six of Zones, 6 is a number of harmony. 5 is a number of change. So it's like the Six of Zones is... okay. This is why we're editing up here. There's a need to edit up here and refine at the 9. Because, and we might actually, either we're in the 6 or the 9. Maybe. Or we're somewhere in between. I don't have to be so absolute. The energy of the Six of Zones is coming right off of that change. We find stability again. We're on even keel again. And there's this harmony that we find, but it's not complete, right? Because the 7 is a spiritual number. So it's like after the battle, after the change, with the 5, we get our grounding, we get our footing again. We think we're good, but there's something that we're still not seeing, and that understanding comes in at the 7, and then we wrap it up in the 8. After we wrap it up in the 8, we refine at the 9, and then we release for production at the 10. So the 6 is even ground. It is harmony. But it almost feels like it's harmony that only remains if inequality continues. It's like as long as the losers continue to be quiet and to be obedient, then harmony can persist. But it's not true harmony. It's a facade, it's an illusion of peace that only comes because the oppressed oppresses, because the oppressor oppresses the oppressed. And when the oppressed just take it, the oppressor lives in this space of harmony. And I guess it is interesting I just said that we're all the villain in someone's story, and then we come down to this energy. Because there's a blindness here at the 6. It's not complete. It is even, but it's not complete. And it's like since we just came from the 5, there's such a strong desire for peace and harmony that we sweep certain things under the rug, but things can only be swept under the rug for so long. And then we get the red Joker. Material intervention. Oh, goodness. The coming of spring and mastering the game of life. There's a 10-10-10 on here. What? There's a 10. No. I take that back. It's a 10. No, I take that back. Is that a 40? Yeah, that's a 40. A 40, a 20, and a 10. A 1, a 4. And is that a 2 or a 3? Hold up. I gotta find the D4. Where's the D4? You know what? I'm actually gonna look this one up because I'm curious. This is one of the cards with cutoff numbers, so that's why I gotta go looking it up. If only for tonight, but you can make a change. Yes, you. Hey, I found the picture, by the way, that I was looking for the other day when I did the release on my part 1 of the release on my part 1 of the release on my legacy channel. On legacy channel. You can make it happen. So let's see if I can still get in. Oh, really now? Oh, really now? Oh, really now? This is not necessary. Oh my gosh. I literally saved the album here so that I wouldn't have to do stuff like this. I just updated my phone and it just ruined everything. Luckily, they all came from over, did they not? So they are still here. Goodness. You can make it happen. If only for tonight. What is this? Material intervention. Maximizing or minimizing? No. These are green. These are red. Green. These are purple. Okay, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. Is this gold? Yep, these are gold. Gold 1. Okay, here we are. It's up here. Somewhere. 3, 2, 1. Oh, that's not the gold set. Goodness. Here it is. So it's 49, 20, 10, 1, 4, and 2. 49? Oh, goodness. 49, 20, 10, 1, 4, and 2. Okay. Well, I might as well look up the 49 since I wasn't looking for it. Let's turn that into something, right? That was a detour of all detours. See, I did something where I thought I was ahead of the game, but because of an update that I did not foresee, it's not. It is where I left it, but I got to do something that I ain't trying to do right now to access it. But it's still in another album. I kept it together in a few places. So hey, you can make it happen. I'm starting to get real hungry, y'all. Like real hungry. Oh no, 49. Oh wait. 49 is the Sage of Earth. This is the Sage of Realms. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I didn't even remember that the Sage of Realms swapped out. Okay, well, we talked about the Sage of Souls yesterday. This is the Sage of Realms. Mastering the Game of Life. Oh, it's on this card. Mastering the Game of Life. The Sage of Realms. Okay. Yeah. So there's the Joker and Mastering the Game of Life, the Sage of Realms. So the Joker and the Sage of Realms is this energy of operating outside of what is already established. It's that full energy. It's the Keeper energy. It's the energy of the Keeper, of the one who appears foolish because of the way that they operate, almost like a hangman energy. But they've actually gone through the game a few times. They have an understanding of the game that supersedes their years, their appearance, their whatever. And this person can do something in a way, and they can get something completely different out of it because they have an understanding behind it. It's something that can't be easily replicated because of the understanding behind it. And again, the realms is it's the last element. We do everything mentally, emotionally, and spiritually before we experience it in alignment physically. So the Sage of Realms is probably also the Sage of Souls, the Sage of Essences, and the Sage of Zones. Or at least he's fairly knowledgeable in all of those to be the Sage of Realms. And so there are subtleties that he can operate in that one wouldn't see that gives him the result that he gets. Material intervention, the coming of spring, mastering the game of life. With the six of zones, that's Aquarian energy. Second decade of Aquarius, which would be like early February. Ooh, that's interesting. This is interesting. This is so much interesting. So much more interesting. Here's the King of Cups. Here's the King of Swords. No, the King of Wands. Here's the energy of the King of Pentacles through the Sage of the Realms. So here's another message attributed to a King energy. Even though I didn't read that as the King of whatever. Y'all get it. You get it. You got it. Good. Okay. Let's look and see what the Six of Swords or the Six of Spades is in the Lenormand. I really can't believe that wasn't right there. I guess I should. It's like, oh, you can't believe it? Well, believe it. Like Naruto would say, Date Bayo. Believe it. The Six of Spades is the Tower. Authority, solitude, loneliness, isolation, aloofness, ego, arrogance, neutral, and delays. The delays are necessary, though, to improve one's understanding. It's like there's this energy. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already been almost an hour. There's this energy of like, but I'm doing everything right. Why isn't it working? Where's your heart? Where's your mind? Where's your spirit? Are they aligned? There's something else that maybe you're not seeing. There's again with the Six of, wasn't it? No, that was the Five. It was the Five and the King of Clubs yesterday. But it almost picks up this same energy of like, it's like sometimes you got all of it, sometimes you don't. But there are parts of the self, things in the self, that we force to remain quiet. There are parts of the self that we force to remain extremely loud to maintain this sense of harmony and stability. But it's a harmony and a stability in an old system and an old energy, subscribing to a new paradigm that you yourself don't align to anymore. Because it's after the 5, it's after the change. And when you've changed, you can't operate in spaces like you used to. You can try, but it causes internal discord and disharmony that leads to more seeking at the 7. Wow, okay. So it was like these decisions that were made, it was important for them to be made. But hopefully, at a certain point, you can begin to see things differently, right? And it's not even for you to judge yourself. It's just to be like, you know what? I acted like this, or I made that decision because of this person, because of that person, because this situation, because that situation, because of whatever lack or ego or whatever I was going through in that time and space. And I can't do anything to change it, but I can correct for it moving forward into the future. I can take the wisdom out of that experience and I can apply that wisdom that leads me to actually having more control over myself, my autonomy, and over my life as a result. Because I'm not dealing with these heavy things that I can't even see with that clouds and anger energy. Now we come up here to the apex of the star, and we have the 5 of spades. Oh my gosh. Oh, we're backtracking. But I feel like we're actually not. I feel like the 5 of spades came out, but it feels like it's more the energy of the 7. But it feels like the 5. It's going to be the 5 until we see what it is that makes this 5 an actual 7. What we're doing is we're leaving the false sense of peace, going back into the storm. But we're going back into the storm different than when we went, or different than when we went in the first time, different than when we were in it the first time. So it's actually a 7. It actually carries the energy of a 7, leading to an 8, 9, 10. But what we have to do is the 5. The 7 comes to us. The 5 of zones is this space of a mind that is changing. And because the mind is changing, because the mind is no longer on even ground, it produces fluctuations and distortions and disturbances in one's experience. But these distortions and fluctuations and disturbances are to get one to align to a path, right? That's how we turn the 5 into the 7. When we allow the 5 to show us, just like this 8 up here, or the 9, just like the 9 up here, and the refinement of like allowing things to exist as they are and then seeing the truth that unfolds without a filter of perception to get a more natural look at it. It's the same. It's similar. 5 and 6 is also an 11, which is awakening. 9 and 6 is 15, which is the devil energy. But the devil isn't, like, we're not supposed to stop at that energy. Eventually the tower is supposed to come where we cut those ties for the first time and then it shakes everything loose. And when we go back to this 5, it's a willingness this time, because we're leaving the 6. We're deciding, like, hey, like, I can't keep muting these parts. These voices, these perspectives, these valid things can't continue to be discounted for a false sense of peace, false sense of security. And I always wonder why politically, I guess we could call it, for some people it's real life, for other people it's politics, but I guess that's the nature of politics. It's politics when you're not on the receiving end of it, and it's real life when you are. But it's like, how is some people asking for equal treatment and fair treatment? How is that seen as disruptive? How is it seen as anything? It's like, I understand that like the rioting and stuff like that can be perceived how it is sometimes. But it's like when it's just a protest, why does a protest escalate to that point? Why are the protests met with so much resistance that it turns into violence. And like we can begin to see now who's actually instigating that violence. It's the energy of people who continuously poke at you, and then when you finally blow up, they want to be like, oh, what's wrong with you? That's what my Libra friend does to me. I'm like, boy. And then his girlfriend was there the last time. She's like, he does this to literally everybody. I was like, thank you. Because the way he talks to me, he tried to make me think I'm crazy. It's like, why do you continue to instigate? Why do you continue to poke me? And I tell you that it's upsetting me. And instead of you listening, you'll say stuff like, oh, well, you know, I can't be nice all the time, or blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, boy. Use constantly a few steps from just being cut out of my life. But anyway, it ain't about that. It is about, however, instigation and incitement. Who's instigating? Who's inciting? Right? Why is it that if I'm like, hey, like, I don't think you should treat me like trash anymore, why do you fall into fear? How am I disturbing the peace? There's no actual peace here. It's calm on the surface in some people's eyes, maybe, but below the surface, you best believe it is not Finding Nemo down there. And if it is Finding Nemo, it's that part of Finding Nemo when Bruce gets a sniff of Dory's blood and then he loses it. Now, in the movie, they got away, and Bruce was able to come back to his senses before he did something that he didn't want to do and eat the fish. And it's like Bruce was kind of sort of the only shark in that meeting dedicated to not eating the fish. I don't want to say that because maybe the other sharks were trying, but you see the one dude who's like, oh, I didn't come with a buddy today, and then you see the little fish skeleton pop out of the side of his mouth. It's like, you brought a buddy, you just ate him before you got here. It's the scorpion that stung the frog halfway across the river. And then I did see a modified version of that story where the scorpion and the frog actually do make it across the river. But this is that energy of making it across the river because we're facing within ourselves the things that need to be faced. And when we bring harmony to those things within ourselves, that harmony ripples outward. The energy of justice. Libra. It's reflective. Huh. Gemini and Libra. Gemini is the twins. Libra is the balance between them. Okay. Now we have the King of Spades. Another king. Inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism and clear intention, clearing of the fog. Well, here's the clouds with the anchor. Here's the clearing of the fog. We did kind of sort of, it's like we got a vision of what it could be, but then we realized that, you know, vision and reality weren't yet aligned. It was still illusion. But we can make this dream a reality. We can turn illusion into reality. We just have to clear out the fog. We have to get clearer on the details. We have to address the things that are unpleasant and actually work through them because, like I said, continuing to sweep them under the rug set us back to this 5 energy. Now we can turn this setback 5 using the wisdom, the need for wisdom, to actually make this a 7. And that's what we have the opportunity to do. So the 5 isn't going to have a Lenormand correspondence, but the King of Spades will. And I feel like I should know the King of Spades too. But I don't. But we're going to look it up. We're going to look it up. It's right here. The King of Spades is the Lily. Oh, I didn't know that. Sensuality, sex, virtue, morality, ethics. Virtue, morality, ethics, wisdom, positive, and winter. Now, was it the clouds or the anchor or something down here that was fall? Now we're coming into winter. Winter is that Aquarius season. King of Swords, Aquarius energy. I was just talking about the 6 being the second decan of Aquarius. The 5 is the first decan of Aquarius. We have this Aquarian energy that we only come into when we address the things that we need to address. You have to let it fall. And you have to allow this phase of transformation that is winter before you can get to the next spring. Wow, the Lily. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. I want to read that one more time. Sensuality, sex, virtue, morality, ethics, wisdom, positive, and winter. Virtue, morality, ethics, wisdom. Virtue, morality, ethics, and wisdom. 4 things that can take us from this 5 of spades to the 9 of spades. All things that we, well, wisdom and virtue are things that we get at the 7. And then with practice, we refine our morality and ethics at the 8 that leave us off at this 9. Right? So again, I'm going to read this one more time. Inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism, and clear intention, clearing of the fog. Now that coming off of this 5, and I think I was just saying something about, I forget. I talk too much. I forget what I'm saying. My brain is just constantly rolling. But I feel like I was saying something about, Libra. First we have this justice on the inside, and then the justice is projected outward. And it's, if we ignore internally, then you're going to continue to get ignoring on the outside. And there's a difference between healing through something and ignoring it. There's a difference between bypassing and detaching. There's a difference between facing the past and running from the past. And there's been this predominant running from energy rather than the running towards energy. But it's time to stop running. Just like I said with the resolver spread. And here's some more resolving energy with all of these kings at the table, and this one joker, the joker who's actually the wisest of all of them, because he already knows what they've all, he knows of their position, and he's already been through it, right? The Sage of Realms has to be the sage of everything else, because Earth is the final element. It's the densest. It's the slowest. It's the most gross. And not gross as in disgusting, but gross as in the least refined. And since it is the least refined, you have to be the most refined to properly mold it, right? It takes a lot of precision to mold clay. I think somebody is playing WAP, and I can hear the bass. Somebody outside is playing WAP somewhere. Oh my gosh. I hear that. Oh my gosh. So we're going to end it with the Queen of Hearts. I love that. And then there's the King. So they're sitting next to each other. King of Hearts, Queen of Hearts. Albeit not on the same level. All these kings showing up. It would be so funny if the King of Diamonds popped up. I think, oh my gosh, really? Queen of Hearts, that is the teacher of essences. Now, the teacher of essences, I love that coming off of the leading by bold example, because it's the teacher, it's the sage who furthers one's own ends and furthers one's own self. But it's the teacher who collectively raises everyone, right? And there's a lot of this self stuff that goes on. And again, with that, with our life being our example, and it takes me back to what I didn't get to say yesterday about ministry and mission trips. It's like, we shouldn't have to force our beliefs on someone else. Our life, our example should be enough to have other people asking us what we believe in, have other people asking us what we're doing, have other people asking us how we can maintain such calm and peace in times that are so unclear and chaotic. Our example, our life should be the testimony. We shouldn't need to convince other people. Other people should be able to see it. And it reminds me of something I said on the Legacy channel earlier. It was like, it's not about looking for the good in someone or looking for the good in a situation. You should just be able to see it. You shouldn't have to look that hard. It should be pretty apparent. And so the Queen of Essences, it's interesting because we can't teach anyone else how to be themselves. All we can do is encourage them to explore those things of themselves, and to encourage them to not to de-internalize or to re-externalize everything outside of them that's worked itself inside of them, to reprogram, defrag themselves, and see who you are for yourself rather than who everyone else says that you are. But again, here's that need to be honest with ourselves. Here's the need to re-equalize, right? To give voice to the muted parts of ourselves and to turn down the overly accentuated parts of ourselves. Here's us re-entering the storm, and re-entering the storm just being the space of rebalancing, balancing until things just click in this way. And that's all we can really encourage other people to do. And the Queen of Hearts is a 5. And we just had the 5 of Swords. 5 of Realms, Queen of, or the Teacher of Essences. And also another thing about the Teacher of Essences is when we get in tune with ourselves and the divine to that degree, it teaches us. It teaches us things that we don't need anyone outside of us to teach us. It illuminates things that we don't need anything or anyone outside of us to illuminate. And when you can be self-illuminated, then the world doesn't have to always reflect back to you things that you need to get for yourself. It's like the world only fulfills that functionality when you need it to. That is mastering the game of life. That's going through life. That's the day with no mirrors that pops up sometimes, that I never get to really experience it that way. Unless this is the day with no mirrors, then I'll be like, oh my gosh, right? That's the day with no mirrors, when you don't need anything outside of you to validate or reflect back to you things that are hidden in the clouds. It changes your dynamic completely. It allows you to interact with things that can be genuinely them, while you can be genuinely you. That's when we come into this one of the all, right? There's the one, there's the all is one, but then there is also one of the all, where you can be all of who you are specifically, but still be connected to all that there is. But still being you. You don't have to just blend in and just be I don't know. It's like you get to be a character in the story that is the entire novel, instead of being a single brushstroke on this painting where everything just kind of sort of blends together. Right? With that Queen of Essences in particular, I feel like after all of this, when you come back into the self and when you rebalance those voices within you, your light and your dark, that's when you can really perceive the voice of the divine within you, and you can really be led and guided to you. Because at our core, we're all made in the image of the Creator. We all have a spark of that divine consciousness within us, but it's within us. So we have to know the self. We have to enter the building or the realm or the zone of self before we can approach that spark, that fire, that peace, the Creator. And this is why people always say, right, it's you have everything you need inside of you. If you're seeking anything external to you, you're actually getting further from the source than you are getting closer. Further from yourself than you are than getting closer. Oh, come now. Oh, come now. You ruin everything. Oh, poo. I do still have one card left out, so, it's possible. It's possible. The 9 of Clubs is the card that came out. Ooh, but I love this, because this honestly fits with what I was just saying. This is... Oh my gosh! I told you I would lose my freaking mind. There it is. Y'all see that? A day with no mirrors. A day with no mirrors. Okay, alright. So it ain't the King of Diamonds, but I will take a day with no mirrors. I will take that. Because that's what I was feeling, and it's right here. Oh my gosh. I'm good. Okay. It ain't just me. It is a collaborative effort between me and me and me and me and me because everything is me. So it is all me. I'm just I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I want to make more decks for myself though, honestly. And like whenever I get a deck, I do like it might sound weird, but by this point over here, y'all should know that I'm a weirdo. I override whatever the frequency is and I substitute it with my own. And if there are frequencies in it that work with mine, then it's like accentuating those and providing a different flavor. And it's also something that helps me like overwrite or rewrite any like potential negative intention or whatever. And I do it with everything, whether it's gifted to me, whether I buy it or whatever, because if I ain't create even this, like I didn't physically print these myself. I don't know, what energy whoever printed these cards on was in, or printed these cards, yeah, was in. I just like I overwrite it with myself to serve me, right? And like some of the decks I put the intention into it, and especially now that like I got that little interview with the deck reading, it helps further amplify that because it gives the deck a specific voice, and when it has a specific voice, I don't have to continuously state my intention. I use it as intended after this interview. Anyway, I don't know why I had to go all the way into that. Long story short, A Day with No Mirrors came out, and I was like, if that Day with No Mirrors card is right there, this is what it's about. Stripped Bare, a game of charades, A Day with No Mirrors. 26, 2, 7, 5, 6, and 4. Stripped Bare, a game of charades, A Day with No Mirrors. And that's almost what it is, a game of charades on the outside. But again, it's like when you can bring voice to those things within yourself, you no longer need the external world to serve that mirroring function. You give it permission to do things besides just mirror you because you don't need it anymore. But as long as you need it, it will continue to be that. And then we get trapped in these halls of mirrors. We get trapped in these fun houses where everything is weird and wonky and distorted, or like we can't see the exit because everything is being reflected back to us. It's like it clears out all of the confusion. But again, it all starts inside and then it shines outward. Seven of Wands in reverse could be facing one's internal darkness instead of focusing so much on everything that lies outside of oneself. Because when you fix it in yourself, it resolves it outside. Ten of Swords. It's like all battles are won within the self. And even within certain communities, and I feel like, because I was outside earlier, I put my feet in the grass a little bit because I had to take out the trash, and I was like, oh, might as well, I'm out here. And a lot of people outside of specifically the African American / black community, they'll be like, oh, well, what about like black on black violence, and what about stuff like this and stuff like that? All of those things are things that we actively talk about within the community all the time, right? Crime, drugs and their impact on the community, violence, like that is stuff that we talk about. There are things within our community that we need to address and that we are doing our best to address or bring awareness and attention to. And there are also things outside of the awareness or outside of the community that we address and we bring attention to. If you're not part of that conversation, like don't assume that that conversation isn't being had just because you're not a part of that conversation. I don't know what happens in your house. I don't know what you talk to your spouse and your parents and your kids and your pets about, because that all happens within the home. I assume, well, I mean, the way a lot of kids seem to act nowadays, a lot of people assume that people aren't actually parenting or raising their kids. But we assume that there's some amount of conversation happening and some amount of conversation going down. But as a person who is not a member of that household, I'm not there. Why would I experience that? Right? And I only bring that up to say that there are things like things resolved within the self before they're resolved outside. Things resolved within a community before they're resolved outside of the community. Things that are resolved within a nation before they are resolved internationally. right? It is this microcosm, 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 macrocosm, macrocosm, macrocosm energy. It's all related. And it all needs to be resolved, right? We can do both at the same time. We can worry about the outside and the inside at the same time. We have the capacity to tackle multiple issues at once. So it isn't always like, oh, well, that's not as serious as this. And it's not always, well, there are bigger fish to fry. I think those are both the same thing. It's not always, well, there are bigger fish to fry. And it's not always like, oh, well, that's, what I can't come up with it. It's both. We can do both. Your personal issues matter. Cultural issues matter. National issues matter. Global issues matter. They all matter. And they're all worthy of our attention. But it starts with the things that we control. And it starts where our voice is the most powerful. And then we project outward. So let's see how we wrap this up. I will get this card first. And it's the Three of Diamonds. I got real excited and thought it was the King of Diamonds for a split second. Oh, but I love this energy. A school of glimmering fish spotlight a sunken treasure. The rising of a new continent. Paired with the Eight of Cups, the defector. Okay. So I'm going to I Ching the Three of Diamonds and the Eight of Cups. The Three of Diamonds doesn't have Lenormand correspondence. But here we have like a school of fish, a school of glimmering fish spotlighting the sunken treasure. And there's the person walking away to the moon. We don't know what's in that treasure chest. But something within us tells us that it's worth, what do you call it? Oh, there's a word for people who like scuba dive and they like get stuff. Oh, I can't remember. But it's worth going down there and bringing it up to the surface. We may not know what it is, but we know that it's worth it. It wouldn't be down there if it wasn't. But the sunken treasure is the beauty of who we are and the magnitude and the power of that and the ability to actually wield it in a way that moves us forward with virtue, morality, ethics, and wisdom. It isn't about asserting oneself over the other. It can be about this collective rising, the rising of a new continent. That's a whole chunk of land. It ain't like a grain of sand rises from the depths of the ocean to the surface. No, it's the whole hunk of land. Almost gives me energy of Lemuria, low-key. Or Mu. Low-key, low-key. And it ain't something I necessarily talk about too much, but it does give me Lemurian energy if I'm being honest. If I'm being honest. Or it could be Atlantis, whatever. What are you believing? It could be this. So let's go with the Three of Diamonds. Three of Pentacles over the Eight of Chalices. This is going to be... Hold up, wait. I think I did that wrong. Yeah, I mixed up the numbers. I mixed up the numbers. It's going to be Wind over Earth. Wind over Earth. And we just had Lake over the mountain, which was... Girl, like, wait. Wind over Earth is number 20. Critique. Ooh, see? That's it. We can critique something and not be judgmental over it. Yes. We can critique. Critique, reassessment, audit yourself. Oh, audit yourself? What? What? No. There is a need for contemplation, seeing but not understanding. Like a child, you see the circumstances going on around you, but you fail to grasp the ramifications. Kings past call upon the four guardians of the universe to aid them toward the correct guidance of their people. You must do the same. It is a time for quiet introspection and self-reflection. Before you proceed, reevaluate the inquiry at hand and restate for yourself what your motivations are. If your true motivations do not align with the divine, adjust your motivations. Only after sincere contemplation should you return for a second divination. And that's how we're going to be ending all of this Virgo season stuff. It's it. That's it. That's it. That's it. It's over. Excuse me. And that just, it clarifies everything that I've already said. I am going to I Ching also the Wheel of Fortune and the Two of Swords for our overall. And I'll read this again. A displacement replaced unintended and unforeseen consequences and a need for wisdom. Like a child, sometimes we don't always understand the ramifications, but it's to seek out, guidance. From the four corners of the earth, that could be like the four archangels, primarily Michael, Raphael, Gabriel, and Ariel. Or at least those are the four that I've heard. And they've all been given a certain corner of the world or whatever. Not whatever, but sometimes it's a corner of the world. Sometimes it's like a corner of creation. Sometimes it's just like a direction in general. And so it's not necessarily related to a specific location. It's just that direction in general. So, Two of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Life. It's actually the Wheel of Life in this deck. So the Two of Swords and the Wheel of Life. This is going to be Lake over Wind. Lake over Wind is number 28. Great Force. Hey, 20 and 28. And 2028, that's 8 years from now. Oh, goodness. What's the world going to look like in 2020? I can't even. It's just blank. It's just blank. That's like me trying to imagine what the edge of the universe looks like at this point. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know why that's so funny, but it's just like, what is 2028 going to be like? It's blank. I don't know. We're still creating it. It's unwritten. And oh, goodness, I don't like that, but it's fine. Undertaking the great, tipping point, and excessive force. You are the sage who stands independent and fierce, without fear, renouncing the world you knew. It is a tipping point. You are reaching critical mass, embarking on a great endeavor. You may need to use excessive personal force. You are on a path of transformation. To facilitate that transformation, excessive force may be necessary, though by the laws of nature, there are consequences to the use of excessive force. It is a turning point in your life. A dried poplar yields one final blossom, its last great act before the poplar withers. And let's see what poplar symbolism is. So yeah, we might have to use, and I've been in a space of using, well, it feels to me a little bit excessive because it's not as watery and earthy as I'm used to. But again, like, there are repercussions to using excessive force, but it needs to be made. It needs to be used right now to really push forward. According to the Celtic code of symbolic trees, the poplar is associated with victory, transformation, and vision. Okay. So that's all I'm going to get. Let's see. Common uses of poplar. It's seldom used for its appearance, except in the case of rainbow poplar. Poplar is a utility wood in nearly every sense. It's used for pallets, crates, upholstered furniture frames, paper, pulpwood, and plywood. Okay. Wow. Pallets, crates. Pallets and crates that goes back to that nesting and preparation energy. It's like you put things on pallets and then you move the pallet. That takes me back to a job I used to have. Why I always end up in physical labor when I wanted like office jobs. Upholstered furniture frames, paper, and plywood. But it is that victory, transformation, and vision. So I love how that ended up in excessive force, right? I mean, she knew what poplar was when she wrote it in there, so that's a tie that makes itself. The Wheel of Fortune and the Two of Swords. It's time to choose brand new things, and it's time to move forward in a different way, and it's time to stop sweeping things under the rug, and it's time to stop scapegoating, and it's time to stop. It's like if you bully somebody and then they stand up to you, it's like, whoa, it's just a joke. Whoa, I didn't mean it. Whoa, like, don't take it so seriously. Whoa, calm down. It's like, okay. Or you can just stop being a trash person individually. It's a learning curve for everybody, so maybe you didn't know. Take it as a moment of education to better yourself instead of getting super defensive. Like, I'm that type of person where, like, if I upset somebody, I own that moment. And I'm not like, oh, well, it was just a joke, and oh, I didn't. Because in that moment, it's not about me. It's about the person who's upset. And even if I'm a little bit embarrassed or ashamed that I've done or said something in a public space and I get called out publicly, like some people think that you should have to go to someone in private when they call you out in public. It's like, why do I have to bear the burden of public shame alone to give you some private education? And it's like, no, let's make this a learning opportunity for everybody here. I'm not going to be the only one. And I don't think that we always have to make a scene. I'm not saying that. I just think that it's a little bit unfair for us to default the person who is publicly shamed to have to privately come to you. Like, you get to publicly shame them, but for them to in turn give you a little bit of that public response is like too much. It's like, no, that ain't fair. You give what you get. And a lot of us, the system has been so skewed where we just, it's like there's no repercussion for a lot of people in a lot of situations and scenarios. And what it's done is it's led to the further de-evolution and de-escalation of humanity in the heart of humanity, where people don't even care anymore. Because caring isn't profitable. And caring isn't, I don't know, it's not how the system is built. You care for certain people, and then you don't care on other people, and then you go beat up the people who it's okay to beat up on, and nothing happens. All of that, it balances itself out, right? It's like, how long did you think the divine was going to allow that to happen? How long did you think the earth was going to allow that to happen? You're dealing with forces now that are greater than you. And you sit in your place of power and position that you've established and created for yourself, and you wreak havoc and do all kinds of questionable things with no fear of consequence. But when you're playing with forces that are greater than you, no respect. No respect. I don't know where all that's coming from. I do know where that's coming from. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I don't, but I do. But I don't. But I do. But I don't. Wheel of Fortune still at the bottom after all those shuffles. Final message from the SKT, please. Final message from the SKT, please. Thank you. Bottom of the deck is the title card. Ooh, mystery. The card that came out is the Discerning One. Two of Wands. The Discerning One. Excessive force may be necessary. Mars in Aries. Mars in Aries. It may be necessary, but there are repercussions and there are consequences. But sometimes you got labor pains and sometimes you got birth pains before something really comes to be. Sometimes volcanoes erupt to, after years and years and years pass, allow things to grow richer than they were before. But the magma has to cool and it has to break up to the point where things can actually grow out of it. But, you know, flowers, a lot of times weeds, grow out of cracks in the concrete. But that's the thing about nature. That's the thing about natural cycles, about the rise and the fall. And we try to make some things permanent that aren't designed to be permanent, especially if they don't continue to grow and adapt and change. I get 4 cards again. I'll take them. First card is the Five of Hearts, where passion meets determination. This is the card that I said was missing earlier between the King of Cups and the King of Clubs. Or the King of Hearts and the King of Clubs. This is the card that I said was missing, the Five of Hearts. Where passion meets determination, going the distance, a need for discipline, a need for wisdom, a need for discipline. 3 of Hearts, where form and function align, the power of words to brighten and terraform. Where passion meets determination, where form and function align. The 8 of Diamonds again, but this time we get to read the message. A complete set of instructions, a stubborn moth reborn as a firefly, a successful trip. And last but not least, the King of Swords, inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism and clear intentions, clearing of the fog. Bottom of the deck is the 4 of Spades, an arrow that swims through the air, forced pliability, a fixed vision in a volatile space. I like that forced pliability because we did just talk about all of the things that poplar can be used for, right? So that's what I got. This is closing out Virgo season. It's been quite a Virgo season. I feel like it's been fairly tame, at least in my life and in my world. But it's one of those like deceptively calm moments. It's been a time of potentially, from my experience, it's been a season of resolution and of looking forward and doing things in the now that have, it's like planting seeds now, expecting to harvest it later, right? The coming of spring, we saw the fall and we saw winter. The only element or the only season that we haven't seen is summer. And if everything is coming, then we're in the summer right now. And we are in the summer right now. At least today, it's going to be fall tomorrow. So yeah, that's what I got. I hope y'all have a good whatever whenever y'all see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make the good better, the better great, the great fantastic, the fantastic miraculous, and the miraculous just sublime. Ooh, I like that word, sublime. That's what it's gonna feel like. It's gonna feel sublime. Like, what? Like, is this a real life? Like this is what I was preparing for. This is the vision I was working towards, but to have this dream become my reality, like what? It's possible. It's possible.